2010, infrastructure was a very big dream of the late president. He believed in infrastructure. Some of the projects that the current presidency completed, and it is nice to note that all these highways that we enjoy, the continuity by His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta of the third projects have given Kenyans gateways to not only the region, but also the greater world. Let us celebrate that which is good, and let us thank the Almighty God for His mercies, as we know that the President was ailing, and now he has rested. My condolences to the entire family, and my gratitude to the entire Nairobi County for coming out in great numbers today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the chance to pass my condolences on my own behalf, that of my family and the great people of Kenya Central, to the family, friends of the late President Mwai Kibaki. Mr. Speaker, the late President Mwai Kibaki was in a class of his own. He was a great man, a man who rose from being a humble shepherd in the slopes of Ulaya to becoming the president of this great nation. He's a man who was involved in the improvement of the law in Kenya and also constitutional development in this country. He was involved in the enactment of the Constitution, of the Independence Constitution, and more so the 2010 Constitution, which we all celebrate. He's a man who taught us humility through his deeds. One thing to remember, when he was demoted from being a vice president of this nation to a minister of health, instead of quitting, he went on to serve and served so well. Also, one has to remember, is a person who really also taught us resilience. Is a person who contested twice for the seat of the presidency, lost twice, but went on to win the presidency in 2002. It's someone who gave this country new hope when he won in the year 2002. Especially, he taught us that our children need to go to school, all of them, and through that introduce the free primary education. He's a man who taught this country to believe in itself in terms of economy. When he was the president, we saw banks hawking loans because the economy improved so much through his policies. He's also a man who, through him, taught us that in his own class, he was an academic giant, especially considering that those years when he went to school. He excelled very well academically and also went on to have masters in those early days. And I think it's true that this great man, we always remember him, especially also his way and gift of being country together, even the times of turmoil. Someone who never used to suffer fools. Someone who never used to be harsh or even dictatorial throughout his management. In fact, he demystified the seat of the presidency in a way that we came to appreciate. You can criticize the president without being disrespectful. May Saul less. Member for Kajiado South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on my own behalf, on behalf of the people of Kajiado South and the people of the great county of Kajiado, I want to send my condolences to the family of the late President Mwai Kibaki, to the people of Wadaya, to the people of this great country where he led for 10 good years, and say, Mr. Speaker, that first of all, I was the last Interior Minister of Kibaki's administration. Then it was called the Ministry of Internal Security and Professional Administration. And I just want to say that economically, Kibaki was a performer. Politically, he was a Democrat. Mr. Speaker, why do I say as a performer? You know, in my first term, 2003 to 2007, in my own constituency, Mr. Speaker, the Emali Loitoktok Road was tarmacked by, you know, the administration of the late President Mwai Kibaki. It was also in that time that the people of Loitoktok really remember the late president for giving us a district called Loitoktok District, where we used to come up to Nairobi and then go back to Kajiado to get our district services before, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the late President Mwai Kibaki can be remembered for so many good things. Actually, it's just good to say that so far he is the best president we have actually seen as a country, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we keep saying that he came a little bit too late when the term limits for the president were already in our constitution, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, we would be very far, Mr. Speaker, as a country, if we had gotten that democratic leadership and also leadership based on performance of Mheshimiwa Kibaki, Mr. Speaker. I also remember personally that he awarded me with the 2 medals. One was the Moran of the Golden Heart. The other one, he awarded me the Elder of the Golden Heart, Mr. Speaker, as a cabinet minister. And I benefited so immensely with his wisdom when I used to consult him on matters of security, matters interests of this country, matters politically, and finally, I want to say what he used to tell us in cabinet, that cabinet ministers find time for 3 things. 1, find time for parliament. That is where you will articulate issues. Find time for your constituent and find time for your family. So he was a great family man, and I would like to say, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bumula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, on my behalf and on behalf of the great people of Bumula, I also wish to pass my condolences to the family of the late President Mwai Kibaki and the entire nation. Mr. Speaker, when we mourn such a great man, we pick some lessons that we need to follow as leaders of this country. One thing that I realized with Mr. President, the late President, that every time, because that time when he was serving as the President, some of us were in the civil service, and every time we had opportunity even to visit him in the evening, you realize that he's sitting with men who could guide him on how to run this country. Mr. Speaker, as a leader, you need good advisors. President Kibaki had very good advisors, and Ambassador Mudaura was always there to see the kind of people that would sit with the president until late. And today we are here to celebrate the great legacy that he has left in this country, a legacy that will be discussed with generations to come, because he was a kind of leader who decided to put the country first and not positions. Mr. Speaker, today you go to the villages, if you talk of the devolution that we can enjoy is actually the CDF that was championed by the late president. Some of the children, when we talked of raising this country from the wilderness, you realize that before Kibaki became the learning under the tree. The best classrooms, some of the places in this country were muddy-walled classrooms, Mr. Speaker. But through CDF today, you go into villages and you wonder whether these are primary schools or colleges built by the CDF funds. So, Mr. Speaker, this is one man who knew that the country was actually in need of his leadership, and he was not such an insecure leader. He was such a consultative man. He could always give people permission to serve in respective ministries. When you listen to some of those fellas who served with him, they will tell you that they will go to him to consult for advice and see how best to improve this country. Mr. Speaker, to talk less or even more about this man, you realize that the massive infrastructure today that we enjoy in this country, people talk of Thika Road, but you go to even to the villages, you realize that some areas which had no tarmac roads, Mr. Speaker, because of the policies of this great man, people had to enjoy the infrastructure that they had never benefited since independence. I concur with one leader who said here, I think it was the leader of chief whip of the majority, who suggested that actually such a great man should be remembered. And the building standing behind you, Mr. Speaker, because of your effort also bringing it up, be named Mwai Kibaki Towers, so that this great man can be remembered by this house.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, nami pia kunipatia fursa hii ili nami niweze kutoa risala za rambirambi kutoka kwangu, jamii yangu na eneo bunge la Taveta kwa ujumla. Mheshimiwa Spika, Rais wetu wa 3 wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa Mwai Kibaki, alikuwa tu si rais peke yake, bali alikuwa baba mpenda watu, mpenda maskini na kuhakikisha kuwa maskini wameinuliwa juu. Mheshimiwa Spika, nilipata fursa ya kufanya kazi naye kwa ukaribu hata nilivyokuwa niko upinzani. Alikuwa kila mara alipenda kusikiza shida zetu za Taveta na kuweza kututatulia. Vile vile Mheshimiwa Spika, nilivyorudi awamu ya pili, tulifanya kazi na yeye akiwa rais wangu na vile vile akinipatia nafasi ya kuwa kwa baraza lake la mawaziri. Mheshimiwa Spika, baba huyu mpenda watu, baba wa taifa aliyekuwa si mwingi wa maneno, but alikuwa mwingi wa vitendo. Alikuwa anataka kusikia Wakenya wanapata faida gani, na ukitaka kumweleza chochote ni umwelezee kuwa Wakenya watafaidika vipi. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Rais Kibaki alivyokuwa na upendo kwa watu wake, alikuja na njia ya kufanya kazi tofauti sana, ambayo nilikuwa nimetoa shukrani kwake. Nakumbuka baada ya vita vile ambavyo tulikuwa navyo na matatizo tuliokuwa nayo baada ya uchaguzi wa 2007, alikuwa mtu ambaye alisimama kidete na kuhakikisha kuwa Wakenya
Order members. Honourable members, as you are aware, that the body of the late returned third President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki has been lying in state within Parliament buildings along the Speaker's walkway for the third and final day. In this regard, today's sitting has been determined to end at 4:45 p.m. to allow certain steps attendant to the departure of the body of the late retired president to take place before 6 p.m. Therefore, this is a sequence of what is going to follow. The date in respect to the motion under order number 8, for which the mover has no right of reply, has just ended. Now, the Speaker's procession will leave the chamber as usual. Thereafter, honorable members will leave the chamber and converge at the main Parliament gate facing KICC and await the casket of the late retired third president as it exits Parliament buildings. The Chief Sergeant at Arms will guide members on the designated waiting place. The Speaker, the two leaders of the majority or minority, or the whips, and the Vice Chairperson of the Parliamentary Service Commission, the clerks of the table, and both the leadership of the Senate will meet to assemble at the members' lodge to join the family of the late retired third president of the Republic of Kenya. The leadership will thereafter converge at the Speaker's walkway to form a procession to escort the casket, together with two representatives of the family and the Kenya Defense Forces team. On arrival of the casket at the late retired third president at the main gate facing KICC, all members are requested to await the playing of the national anthem and the East African anthem before the casket is loaded onto the carriage to exit Parliament buildings. The parliamentary procession will symbolize the House paying its last respects and honoring the late retired third president for his service to the House. The House, honour members, time being 49 minutes past 4, stands adjourned until Tuesday, 10th of May, 2022 at 2:30 p.m.
pia.